For over a decade, Mrs. Brown's Boys made family chaos look hilarious. However, real life wasn't nearly so simple. One actor suddenly disappeared after the show. Another survived a dangerous battle, while one of television's most famous on-screen mother and daughter relationships was actually a real-life marriage. This is the side of Mrs. Brown's Boys fans never knew. So, would you believe that Dermot O'Neill played Grandad Brown simply because he worked as a window cleaner? It's true. He regularly cleaned the windows at Brendan O'Carroll's home, and Brendan was so impressed by his natural sense of humor that he invited him to join the stage company. O'Neill was then cast as Grandad, the only character he has portrayed continuously from the original radio version to the stage productions, and eventually the BBC television series, taking on the role at 58. But behind his performance, he had been quietly battling serious illness for years. In late 2019, Dermot O'Neill was rushed to the hospital in a severely weakened condition after being diagnosed with cancer. At one point, he had to be fed through a tube. It wasn't until April 2020 that doctors officially told him he had beaten the disease, allowing him to return to the Mrs. Brown's Boys set. Just when it seemed the rest of his life might finally be more peaceful, tragedy struck again in early 2026. His wife, Patricia "Chicky" Maguire, whom he married in 2012 after more than 20 years together, was diagnosed with stage 4 stomach cancer in January 2026, while the couple were in Spain preparing for his back surgery. After several months of chemotherapy at Beaumont Hospital in Dublin, she passed away in the early hours of June 1, 2026, at St. Francis Hospice in Blanchardstown at the age of 60, leaving behind 7 children. In 2026, at 74 years old, Dermot O'Neill continues to live with the profound grief of losing his wife. Even so, he remains one of the longest-serving and most beloved members of Mrs. Brown's Boys, having portrayed Grandad for more than 2 decades across every version of the franchise. No one shaped Mrs. Brown's Boys more than Brendan O'Carroll. Just days before opening night, the actress originally cast as Agnes Brown unexpectedly dropped out. With no one else available, Brendan O'Carroll shaved off his beard, put on a wig, and stepped onto the stage himself. That last-minute act of improvisation, inspired by the short radio play he had written in 1992, eventually led him to adapt Mrs. Brown's Boys when he was 56 years old. In 2019, O'Carroll survived a genuine life-or-death health scare. While being examined for a problem with his leg, doctors discovered that one of his heart arteries was 99% blocked, leaving him, by their estimate, just weeks away from suffering a major heart attack. He underwent emergency stent surgery and later launched a heart screening campaign named after Mrs. Brown's Boys to raise public awareness of cardiovascular health. By 2026, at 70, Brendan O'Carroll lives in Davenport, Florida, with his wife and remains as energetic as ever with Mrs. Brown's Boys. In September 2025, he said he would continue making the show for as long as the BBC wants it, making it clear that there are no signs of the beloved series ending anytime soon. The success of Mrs. Brown's Boys earned him the BAFTA Award for Best Sitcom, transforming Brendan from a stand-up comedian who once struggled with debt into a millionaire. In 2015, he received the Irish Film and Television Academy's Lifetime Achievement Award, and in 2022, he published his autobiography, Call Me Mrs. Brown. Now it's Eilish O'Carroll's turn. He didn't simply play Winnie McGugan at 59, she is Brendan O'Carroll's real-life sister. That family connection gave her performance a special authenticity as Agnes Brown's lovable, slightly scatterbrained, yet fiercely loyal best friend. The role brought her long-overdue recognition and proved that she was every bit as talented as her famous brother. Even so, success could not shield her from life's greatest challenges. In recent years, her life took a completely unexpected turn. While she was in the hospital being treated for the flu, a routine chest X-ray unexpectedly revealed an enlarged lymph node and a tumor. She was diagnosed with breast cancer despite having no symptoms at all. O'Carroll later shared that Winnie, the character she had played for more than 25 years, became an unexpected source of strength during her treatment, a voice in her mind reminding her never to feel sorry for herself. By 2026, at 73 years old, Eilish O'Carroll divides her time between Cork and Dublin while continuing her treatment with the support of her longtime partner, Marion O'Sullivan, who has been by her side for more than 2 decades. She believes that continuing to work throughout her treatment has helped her stay positive and maintain her optimism. Beyond Mrs. Brown's Boys, she wrote and performed her own one-woman show, Live, Love, Laugh, touring across the United Kingdom and Ireland until 2018. In 2019, she also competed on Ireland's Dancing with the Stars. Together, these achievements have built a career defined by resilience, alongside the beloved role of Winnie that has remained part of her life for more than 15 years. The family story continues with Danny O'Carroll. As Brendan O'Carroll's son, Danny grew up surrounded by his family's world of entertainment, making him a natural choice for the role of Buster Brady, the lovable troublemaker and best friend of Dermot Brown. When Mrs. Brown's Boys premiered on the BBC in 2011, he was 28 years old at the time, and his effortless physical comedy quickly became one of the show's biggest crowd pleasers. But behind the laughter on screen, his personal life took a far more painful turn. In 2024, his 17-year marriage to actress Amanda Woods, who played Betty Brown in the series, officially came to an end. Their real-life separation had a direct impact on the show. Amanda left the cast entirely, forcing the writers to explain her absence by having Mark and Betty break up in the special episode New Year, New Mammy, turning a real family heartbreak into part of the storyline. By 2026, Danny O'Carroll is 42 years old. He relocated to County Donegal, competed on Ireland's Dancing with the Stars in late 2024, and in January 2026 began hosting an afternoon radio show on Highland Radio. In addition to acting, he served as an executive producer of Mrs. Brown's Boys movie and has remained actively involved in charitable work. Among his fundraising efforts was a charity event named after his character Buster, which raised more than €50,000 for the victims of the Buncrana tragedy and for Pieta House. Another member of the O'Carroll family soon joined the story. Maria Brown, the calm and sensible daughter-in-law who often brings peace to Agnes Brown's chaotic household, is played by Brendan O'Carroll's real-life daughter, Fiona O'Carroll. She was just 31 years old when she took on the role. Having worked in the entertainment industry since the age of 10, Fiona brought warmth and authenticity to Maria, a woman constantly trying to balance her more refined upbringing with the lively working-class family she married into. But Maria's calm and composed personality couldn't have been more different from Fiona's real life. She married Martin Delaney, who plays Trevor, Agnes Brown's youngest son, in 2006, and together they had 4 sons. In December 2021, Fiona publicly announced their separation, and the marriage eventually ended in divorce. The story didn't end there, however. Martin remained both a producer and a supporting cast member on Mrs. Brown's Boys, meaning the former couple continued working together on set for years after their split. It created an understandably awkward atmosphere that many members of the cast and crew were well aware of. Fortunately, Fiona's career never lost its momentum. In 2022, she won the Best Actress Award at the Underground Cinema International Film Festival for her performance in an independent film. By 2026, at 45 years old, she remains one of the key pillars of Mrs. Brown's Boys. Anne was childhood friends with Danny O'Carroll, Brendan O'Carroll's son, long before Mrs. Brown's Boys became a television hit. He originally played the minor role of Trevor in the stage production, but when the series premiered on the BBC in 2011, he was cast as Dermot Brown, Agnes's dim-witted eldest son, known for his love of dressing up and his constant financial troubles. He was 28 years old at the time, and the role transformed him from an ordinary young man from Dublin into a beloved television star. It was also on the Mrs. Brown's Boys set that he met his future wife, Emily Regan. She later joined the cast as Barbara after temporarily replacing the actress who played Maria during maternity leave. The couple married in 2013 and welcomed twin daughters, Bonnie and Darcy, in 2015. In 2026, at 43 years old, Paddy Holohan enjoys a happy family life, although he has admitted that playing Dermot Brown for 15 years made it difficult to find acting opportunities outside the O'Carroll universe. Fortunately, he has gradually built a new career behind the camera. Since 2023, Holohan has co-written every episode of Mrs. Brown's Boys alongside Brendan O'Carroll. Then, on January 1st, 2026, his first independently written television project, Sheedites, officially premiered, marking his transition from an actor known for one iconic role into a screenwriter with a creative voice of his own.
Banking. Gibney turned to amateur theater. She met
Brendan O'Carroll. That decision ultimately led her to the role of Kathy Brown in Mrs. Brown's Boys. She was 47 years old when she took on the part, bringing quick wit and natural comic timing to a character who constantly finds herself caught in the family's hilarious chaos. The success of the role opened unexpected doors for her. In 2014, Jennifer competed in the 12th season of Strictly Come Dancing, partnered with professional dancer Tristan McManus. Her journey was short-lived, however, as she was eliminated in the third week after performing to an ABBA classic. Her real-life story is even more remarkable than her on-screen one. Jennifer has been married to Brendan O'Carroll since 2005, the same man whose daughter she plays in Mrs. Brown's Boys. Beyond being husband and wife, the two also run the production company behind the show's success. Although they have spoken openly about their disappointment at never having children together, they have always regarded the cast and crew as an extended family. By 2026, at 62 years old, Jennifer Gibney remains a central part of Mrs. Brown's Boys. Kathy Brown's character has been refreshed with a new storyline involving a fictional podcast about remarkable women, giving the role a subtle update while keeping her just as relatable to audiences more than 15 years after the series first began. Fiona Gibney joined Mrs. Brown's Boys largely through family connections. Her sister, Jennifer Gibney, is married to the show's creator and producer, Brendan O'Carroll. When the series premiered on the BBC in 2011, Fiona was 41 years old and took on the role of Sharon McGugan, Winnie McGugan's daughter. Although Sharon is primarily a supporting character, she became an important part of the show's comedy, especially through her entertaining interactions with Kathy Brown, played by her own sister. Her presence in the cast was far from unusual. In fact, much of the main cast is made up of members of the O'Carroll and Gibney families, leading many fans to jokingly describe the show as Britain's family-run sitcom. Rather than hiding that fact, the cast and production team have openly embraced it as one of the series' most distinctive features. In addition to appearing on screen, Fiona has also worked behind the scenes as a production assistant, a role that has been just as important to her as playing Sharon, even though it has received far less public attention. By 2026, at 56 years old, Fiona Gibney continues to keep her personal life largely private, while remaining actively involved in both acting and production on Mrs. Brown's Boys, Mrs. Brown's Boys the Movie, and the companion talk show All Round to Mrs. Brown's. Then came Martin Delaney. He was 32 years old when he took on the role of Trevor Brown, Agnes Brown's youngest son, who leaves home to become a missionary and only rarely returns to visit the family. Beyond acting, Delaney also established himself as a talented producer, playing a key role behind the success of Mrs. Brown's Boys the Movie in 2014, which topped the box office in both the United Kingdom and Ireland. He became part of the O'Carroll family through his marriage to Fiona O'Carroll, Brendan O'Carroll's daughter. However, in December 2021, the couple publicly confirmed their separation, bringing an end to the marriage that had tied him so closely to the very family he worked alongside for years. Continuing to work on the same set as his former wife, while surrounded by a cast made up largely of her relatives, placed Delaney in an unusually difficult position. He had to remain professional as both an actor and producer while navigating the emotional complexities that followed the breakdown of their marriage. In 2026, at 47 years old, Martin Delaney continues to balance his dual responsibilities as both actor and producer on Mrs. Brown's Boys, proving that a professional partnership can sometimes endure long after a marriage has come to an end. Now it's Connor Maloney's turn. He was 42 years old when he played Father Damien, the priest who steps in whenever Father Quinn is away on retreat and often finds himself on the receiving end of Agnes Brown's outrageous confessions and mischievous antics. His performance brought a lighthearted, satirical touch to the show's religious humor, making Father Damien one of its most beloved recurring characters. As one of the few cast members with no family ties to the O'Carroll clan, Maloney's appearances on screen were often unpredictable, depending entirely on whether the writers included Father Damien in a particular episode. At times, this led to tensions among members of the cast during production. Unlike what many people assumed, however, Maloney was never limited to playing the well-meaning but slightly bewildered priest. Alongside Mrs. Brown's Boys, he built a diverse acting career with roles in The Guard, 2011, Disney's Cruella, 2021, and more recently, Netflix's The Decameron, 2024. By 2026, at 56 years old, Connor Maloney has also established an impressive voice acting career, highlighted by his work in Dragon Age, Inquisition, as well as numerous commercials, audiobooks, and animated productions, proving that he has built a successful career well beyond the shadow of the priest from Finglas. Rory Brown, Agnes's charming gay son, was originally written for another stage actor. But when that performer suddenly dropped out just before a performance, Rory Cowan, who was then working as Brendan O'Carroll's tour and logistics manager after leaving his marketing manager position at EMI Records, stepped in at the last minute. He quickly became one of the show's most beloved characters when Mrs. Brown's Boys at 52. In June 2017, after spending 26 years working alongside Brendan O'Carroll across every version of the Mrs. Brown's Boys franchise, Cowan made the unexpected decision to leave the show, admitting that he was no longer happy in the role. Around the same time, he also became the target of online abuse after some Twitter users compared him to notorious abuser Jimmy Savile. The harassment became so severe that he reported the abusive comments to the police. Away from the spotlight, Cowan also survived a near-fatal carbon monoxide poisoning incident at his home in Kilmainham, where he has lived since 1990. In early 2024, he competed on Ireland's Dancing with the Stars alongside professional partner Gillian Bromwich, although they became the first couple eliminated from the competition. By 2026, at 67 years old, Rory Cowan has also closed the chapter on Fair City after leaving the role of John Bosco Walsh in 2025. He continues to live openly as a gay man in Kilmainham and has often said that his years working with Brendan O'Carroll gave him the long-term financial stability he enjoys today. Amanda Woods joined the Mrs. Brown's Boys family in 2000 after Brendan O'Carroll spotted her talent in a stage production in Donegal. She officially became part of the acting family after marrying Danny O'Carroll in 2007. Amanda first appeared in the supporting role of Baghdad Barbie before taking on the regular role of Betty Brown, Agnes's outspoken and practical daughter-in-law, at the age of 30. Ironically, the role that tied her so closely to her husband's family also became a painful reminder when her marriage came to an end. In 2024, Amanda and Danny O'Carroll officially divorced. She then chose to leave Mrs. Brown's Boys completely, forcing the writers to explain Betty's disappearance by writing her out of the story in the special episode New Year, New Mammy. Today, at 45 years old, Amanda Woods has shifted her focus to building a career as a lifestyle and parenting influencer in Ireland. She also remains devoted to her two sons, Jamie and Blake, who both appeared in the series as Agnes Brown's grandsons. Beyond social media, Amanda now runs her own production company, Woods on Fire Productions, marking the beginning of an independent chapter in her career, one completely separate from the television success that had linked her to the O'Carroll family for nearly 2 decades. Gary Hollywood was already an established Scottish actor before joining Mrs. Brown's Boys as Dino Doyle, Rory Brown's partner, when the series premiered on the BBC in 2011. He was 32 years old at the time. Together with Rory Cowan, he helped create one of the most recognizable same-sex couples on Irish and British television. Behind the success, however, years of frustration had been building. In late 2020, Dino Doyle was written out of the Christmas special, which also became the series' lowest-rated holiday episode in nearly a decade. Gary publicly stated that he felt he had not been paid fairly compared with other cast members on the companion show All Round to Mrs. Brown's. He said that when he raised his concerns, nothing changed. He eventually filed legal action against Brendan O'Carroll, alleging constructive dismissal and workplace discrimination. Hollywood revealed that he had once viewed Brendan as both a father figure and a mentor, making it especially painful to learn he had been dropped from the production through a simple text message. After leaving Mrs. Brown's Boys following more than 2 decades of working alongside colleague Damien McKiernan, Gary Hollywood returned to his Scottish roots. In 2026, at the age of 47, he is living with his second wife, Cheryl Ann, whom he married in 2019 after his first marriage to Sharon Moody ended in 2017. Together, they also endured the heartbreak of losing a baby to miscarriage in 2023. Alongside acting, Hollywood has expanded into business, co-founding the gin brand Hollywood Ginge with his wife in 2019. On screen, he continues to pursue acting, including a role in the 2025 short film Faithful, adding another chapter to a career that began when he was just 12 years old, with a small part in the detective series Taggart. Sorcha Cusack was 62 years old when she became the first actress to play Hilary Nicholson, Agnes Brown's proud and snobbish in-law who constantly looked down on her. She appeared in only the first 2 episodes before the role was handed over to Susie Blake. Cusack brought to the part the experience of a distinguished acting career and came from what many regard as Ireland's royal family of theatre. She is the daughter of legendary actor Cyril Cusack and the sister of Sinead Cusack and Niamh Cusack. Unlike some of the off-screen drama involving the younger members of the O'Carroll family, Cusack's departure after just 2 episodes had nothing to do with conflict. She left simply because of her busy schedule and her desire not to be tied to a long-running family sitcom. Even so, she maintained a warm relationship with the production, returning in Mrs. Brown's Boys the movie in 2014 to play a completely different character, Justice Dickey. In 2026, at 77 years old, Sorcha Cusack remains one of the most respected figures in British and Irish television. Her career has spanned acclaimed productions including Casualty, Coronation Street, and nearly a decade on Father Brown. She continues to enjoy a long and happy marriage to actor Nigel Cook, with whom she has 2 children, Liam and Beth, and has stayed entirely free from the scandals and financial disputes that have occasionally surrounded the Mrs. Brown's Boys franchise. Finally, we have Gary Lilburn. At 56 years old, he stepped into the role of Father Quinn, the flustered parish priest who did everything he could to avoid Agnes Brown's latest confession. He appeared in around 5 episodes between 2011 and 2013 before leaving the series. The same year he left Mrs. Brown's Boys, Lilburn's career took an important turn. He was cast as another priest, this time in the Oscar-nominated film Philomena alongside Judi Dench, demonstrating his ability to move effortlessly between broad comedy and serious dramatic roles. After Mrs. Brown's Boys, he remained active with appearances in productions such as Father Brown, Bad Sisters, and Paula. He also expanded into voice acting, contributing to the acclaimed video game The Witcher 3: Wild Hunt in 2015. In 2026, at 71 years old, Gary Lilburn is recognized as one of Ireland's most accomplished character actors. His career extends far beyond the bumbling priest from Finglas, spanning a wide range of film, television, and voice acting roles. So, from unforgettable laughs to emotional real-life journeys, the cast of Mrs. Brown's Boys has changed in remarkable ways since 2011. Which cast member surprised you the most in 2026? Let us know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this Then and Now update, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more amazing cast transformations. Thanks for watching.